a third fire station. So to say that because a third fire station is being built, then you can prorate that to not have to charge those costs against the annexation is not correct and should not be followed. Another thing is, it's already been stated, the wages, using initial wages yields an incorrect answer. You've also tried to leave out the expensive parts, the roads and sewers, which yield, as has already been stated by Mr. Mansagar, I'm sorry. It's not intentional, I really am
not
meaning...
the first time, don't worry.
I'm not meaning it in disrespect by that, I'm sorry.
Just Greg.
Yeah, sorry, Greg. As already stated, is those weren't included because the payback is very poor and the financials do not work out. So I would encourage you to actually present those numbers with real numbers associated with that and fully allocating a real number for a fire station and developing those actual costs. Because I think, as Greg said, the numbers will not be favorable. And I would encourage you to actually know, and if it's an information session, I would encourage you to get those real answers, not always the best case scenarios, because best case scenarios are great when they work out, but rarely they do. My other thing that I wanted to point out is he talked a lot about benefits and how that we would all be receiving all of the same benefits. Two items about that is, what benefits would we be receiving that we don't currently receive? And also, stormwater runoff was not mentioned. That's also a quite costly benefit that the people inside the city receive that I'm sure were not included into this, that would also cause the paybacks to be much worse. So if those could be provided, I would greatly appreciate it. But thank you for your time. If you had any questions, I'd be happy to answer or not.
Good. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now, is there anyone else?
I'm Kent Heckman, and I live at 2605 Canterbury Road. And I guess one of the questions I want to ask is, do any of these, or do these scenarios assume a voluntary annexation, or are we assuming this is an involuntary annexation?
You could voluntarily annex anytime you'd like to
Go either way
petition
you
council.
want, really.
So if this is assuming a voluntary annexation, I guess one of the things that I would maybe suggest is that maybe we quit wasting the city's money investigating this, because I don't know how many people want to voluntarily be annexed if we haven't polled the residents out there. So we need to probably do that also. So that's one of the things. And to Mike's point, the services that you speak of currently, I believe we are satisfied with the services we receive. I think the garbage is one of the services that we do not receive at this time. But me personally, I would hate to have to pay $1,200 more per year for garbage service, considering what my tax base is right now. I believe the fire, if the fire were out, or fire services were out there, one of the guys that was saying next to me mentioned that, I think even it was mentioned that the water lines probably wouldn't support the fire trucks that we have. So those would have to be upgraded to provide any level of service that they would be having inside the city limits also. So those are just a few of the comments that I had. And if you've got any questions for me.
Council, anybody?
Kent, what was your second item? I apologize. You had a first question was regarding involuntary versus voluntary, and your second question?
A poll.
He wanted a poll.
The poll.
Yes,
the
a poll.
Poll.
A poll of the residents in the affected areas, I think would be beneficial before we spend a lot more money on moving forward with this.
Good. Thank you very much. Now, is there anybody else? Yes, please.
Hi, my name's Rick Anderson. I live in at 2448 Prairie Rose Ridge in Bryman Prairie. So I guess I'd start out with a couple of things here. Let me get oriented. And first, Andrew, you're in a tough job, so I recognize that, and thanks for putting together an initial pass on this. I guess where I'd like to start out is just with a question, and that is, what is the incremental benefit that any new neighborhood, any new household assessed into this area would receive by assessment? Just maybe a simple laundry list or a list of benefits. as a resident out there, have not made up my mind whether it's good or bad for our neighborhood, but I think in order for me to go back as an association member and advocate a position, I would need to know what the incremental benefit is. It's hard now just to, with all the give and take, to understand what that benefit is. We have fire service, we have police protection, we pay for our own garbage pickup. Looking at the costs here between $1,500 and $1,800 per household, depending on which scenario we look at, we would be paying a lot for an incremental service, and I'm not sure what it encompasses, and I need to be able to communicate that back to our association members. The other thing I would ask is that there be an assessment of what it would take to provide a normalized city service that a city citizen would receive if you annexed in these areas. So, for example, most people in the city receive snow, road upkeep, sewage, stormwater runoff, et cetera. I'd just like to see a scenario that took all of that into account and what the payback would be. Which brings me to my third question that I'd like to see at some point in any proposal, and that is, what is the proposed payback for any period that we're looking at? If we're looking at a proposed payback of, some of these show 2.4 years, is that the desired payback period, or are we going to bond this, and is there a set matrix of benefits we could receive if we bonded that out over a period of time and also used a set of benefits that these new annexed areas would receive? Where it's at now, I can't quite understand all that, and I realize we're early in the process. So on behalf of our members, I think, Ross, I don't know if there's anything else I should ask, but that's kind of where what we'd like to understand at this point. Okay?
Yes, thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. Council, do you have any questions for this young man? Anybody? No? Thank you very much. We do appreciate it. All right. Is there anybody else? We'll go one more if there's somebody else that would like to make a comment. Yes, please?
I'm in the same development he's in, but I have.
Okay.
Tom Iannelli. I'm at 2434 Prairie Rose Ridge out in Bryman Prairie. Couple of things. To answer Mr. Fitzgerald's question, Iowa Code 3068.25 requires that all city services be provided within a 3-year period. Otherwise, the board could rescind and unannex the territories. So, okay, well, you asked the question and you didn't get an answer, so I thought I would. The other, specifically, out where we are, the nearest fire hydrant, which doesn't provide adequate pressure, it's about half a mile from my home. The truck that's stated in here for purchase, it says it's a pumper truck. I'm assuming it's a pumper tanker at that price. That it's like a 3,500 gallon tanker truck estimate. Yeah, I for clarification purposes, because it doesn't do any good if it's just a pumper.
It's a rural engine. We don't have any rural engines or pumpers at this point in time.
Yeah, so the point made earlier about that the things would have to be done, the addition of that truck and included in here for clarification would bring the water to the fire. You don't need to, basically, is what that's for.
It's not sufficient. It's one would not be sufficient, though. Yes.
Right, no, I understand, but it's not, it would be an issue. The other thing, as we've seen in other areas around the country, at least, because I've lived in several different places, some cities have decided to restrict the extension of city services out to areas that aren't covered by their tax dollars. And I know when I applied for my homeowner's insurance, I got, the quote was based on the fact that I'm covered by the Volunteer Fire Department of Wilton out in our area. I am not covered officially by the city of Muscatine. So I don't receive that benefit even though we pay county taxes and everything, and I'm not sure about the legal standing of that. It would be very nice to have clarification about what the legal responsibility is of the city to provide any of those city services. Because I also know that on the private roads, even though you would be providing police, the police cannot monitor the roads because they're private. They're not publicly maintained. While they could do property damage and everything else like that, which is the case with the sheriff today, you wouldn't have jurisdiction over providing traffic rules or anything else like that unless there was property damage involved. So I'd like to understand what the clarification is of benefits and whether in a cash-strapped society like we all are, revenue hindered, whether the city, if it doesn't move forward with something like this, is going to take any direction in the opposite way and start to restrict and maintain to control costs and literally articulate whether or not services would be provided to those outlying areas. So that would be a point of clarification that I think would be necessary as part of the petition process. So.
Good. Questions? Anybody?
Two quick comments.
Yes.
Your Honor, if I could. The 3 years, I believe, simply provides the basic services. That doesn't apply to what we've been talking about, the sewer, the roads, et cetera. That's simply basic services. That's police, fire, and the basic services that would be provided next day anyway. So that's not an issue from our perspective. The other side of the equation, if we do not decide to annex, and we started to talk about this during the budget process, and in fact, we instituted a non-resident fee for the pool. Things that we'll want to continue to talk about are non-resident fees. Currently we have some minor sewer outside of the city limits. We charge a 10% surcharge. The average surcharge is closer to 33% for services that are outside of the city limits. So those are things we'll also want to encompass as part of our discussion should we choose not to move forward with annexation.
Okay, anyone else? Thank you very much. Do appreciate it. Now, one more, okay.
Big job.
I'm John Weaver, live at 2674 Huck Finn and Mark Twain. Osama said I had to come up and make a statement tonight.
Listen to Osama, do you?
You
No,
always.
never.
I just-
Anyway, I've heard everyone's talking about what it does for the city, but nobody's come up with any figures of what it does for the individual. If I'm getting sewer service, what's it gonna cost me to hook up? Yeah, you bring it out here, am I gonna have to pay $20,000 to hook up? I don't know. You gotta tell me what this whole thing is gonna cost me. I already know my taxes will go up. What else is it gonna cost me? That's my question.
Good question. Council, anyone? Anybody have another question? Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm sure we will get together a few more times in the next few months, and more questions will arise, and I hope that we will be able to bring you the answers to these questions in post-haste here. So, yes, please?
Just a moment to introduce myself and make a quick comment.
Yes, please?
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Brian Fagan, and I'm an attorney at Simmons, Perrine, Moyer Bergman at 115 3rd Street, Southeast Cedar Rapids, Iowa. My partner, Randy Scholler, and I have been retained by the homeowners associations to engage on this process. This is a very long process, Mayor, and I appreciate the admonition, warning, guidance that you provided at the outset that this is a preliminary session to determine what additional information is needed. And I think one of the questions one of the presenters that came up this evening indicated that let's do away with the issue of voluntary. I think by the turnout tonight, this is an indicia of individuals that in no way, shape, or form believe this to be a voluntary annexation. We will get to know each other very well over the course of this process at the City Council level, but also at the City Development Board, should it go to that level. But from our understanding, and as what we've been retained by the Homeowners Association to convey that they're satisfied with their situation right now, that they have chosen to live in the county and in the area that they've chosen. They're satisfied with the services that they receive and the level of payment that they're making to receive those services. But ongoing during this process, we certainly will have additional information that we'll be requesting from the city in order to get that information that we need to educate you on what our positions are as well. So thank you for this opportunity. I imagine we'll be getting to know each other very well over the course of this process, and I want to thank you for extending me the opportunity to address you tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, and thanks for being here this evening. You are correct. We will see a lot of each other, I'm sure. Now, council, is there anything else? It's time for council comments, but